The Sciforror Film Podcast. Hello and welcome to the Sciforror Film Podcast. I am here on my own this time. Unfortunately, Scott Walker has not been well and he's not going to be able to do this in the same way he wasn't able to join me at the Romford Horror Film Festival. Now, this is my report back from the Romford Horror Film Festival, and here we go. We'll start off with day one. Now, unfortunately, because I was on my own, there were a lot of films I didn't get to see. So I'm going to go through a list of the films I didn't see on day one. So we have the favourite classic film of The Shuttered Room. We have The Whisper Within the Woods, which is a new independent film. Long Weekend, another classic film. Staycation, which was another new independent film. Sweeney Todd, The Demon Barber of Fleet Street, another classic film. Cheryl, which was a new indie feature film. The Tenant, which was another classic film. The Lift, which is another classic film. Hole Akajama, which is a new indie film. Metropolis, which is the Giorgio Moroder version, which was a classic film. Threads, which was the classic TV drama from BBC. Greasy Strangler, which is another classic film. Butcher, Baker, Nightmare Maker, another classic film. Cat People, which was another classic film. All This Time, which was another new indie. The Stuff, another classic film. Invasion of the Body Snatchers, a classic film. Stephen Berkoff's Telltale Heart, new independent film. And Angst, which was another classic film. There were also a load of late night shorts which were repeated on another day, and I did get to see them then, as I did with The Shuttered Room. Some of these are not going to have a great deal of detail about them, but these are all the films I did see. So I started off on day one. I spent most of the time trying to do mostly short films. So I started off on day one with the first lot of short films. The first one was Psycho Data, which is a sort of comedy horror. It's an interview in one room between a therapist and a woman about her recent date. It was an okay film, and you know, for what it was quite good. It's two people in an empty room, basically, which can be difficult to make work, but it worked okay. The second film was called The Spirits of Penge. This was done like a TV ghost hunter show. It was kind of well done-ish. It was a bit slow in paces. Good idea, but a little bit dull. I didn't really get into it that much. Now, I honestly thought that this was some kind of mockumentary, but I was later told that it wasn't, that it was actually a proper kind of ghost hunter type program. So I don't know. I'm still I'm still a bit curious out on that, because I'm not sure whether I believe that it was real or a mockumentary. The third short film was called Fetch. Not totally original idea, but it's well made, and the end of it was slightly unexpected. I'm not going to give too many spoilers away for some of these films, because I'd like people to go out and get them, and I will, as much as possible, I will put up as many links as I can to the films or to trailers of them. The next film was called Destructive Grief. This I thought was very well made. Some really good camera work, good use of music and sound effects. Really good idea. I think that they could have done more with it, though. just sort of the idea of the self-destructiveness of grief, it was really good. I just think it could have gone further. The next film was one I really did like. It's called Strings. It was kind of like a teen holiday, three teens on a holiday, kind of superficial thing of selfies and all this kind of thing. What I did like about this is there was a really good use of silence in this film. There isn't any overpowering music or anything like that. Then it created a really great atmosphere. There's good effects in it as well, and some really good acting. And altogether, I thought it was a really good film. Uh, the next one was called Baby Jitter. Some good effects, some good sound effects and things like that. And a fairly good jump scare in it as well, but it wasn't anything spectacular. Then we have Painted Room. There's some slightly odd camera work in this. It's a very odd short film. I'm not quite sure it worked for me, but it was okay. Next was Bon Appetit, which was there was great use of a voiceover in this, and I thought it was really good. It was kind of like a with dinner date thing with it with a twist to it, which worked quite well. Then we have the House of Shield. Good cinematography in this. It's about a very odd family, and then they're kind of seeing things now. There's a grandma who is religious. You just kind of got the feeling that guilt had driven her mad. It was quite good, and it had an unexpected ending to it, but I don't know, it was okay. Then we had Fast Sale, which I did like. It's good cinematography, well acted, great idea about somebody wanting to sell a house quick. Really well made, and that is one film that I think I may well be trying to get an interview with the filmmaker at some point um, later on. So that was the first lot of short films that I saw. The second lot of short films, the first one was called Poppy's Saturn. It's subtitled, but not all of it was needed. I don't quite know why some of it had subtitles because I understood perfectly well what people were saying. It's an interesting start and there's an interesting song in it. The atmosphere is good, well acted. There's some very odd characters. Some good use of camera effects. It's odd, a bit trippy, a bit like an Italian sort of film, Italian horror film. Strange but good. The next one was called Welcome to the Machine. It's kind of an internet DJ musician. It's strange and a bit trippy. It's an allegory on the music industry, I take it. It's quite strange, but it's okay. It's not. I didn't think it was great, but it's okay. Um, then there's Wilderness, which I'm sure I've seen before, to be honest. Good cinematography, good atmosphere, built up to a decent jump scare, which was like a sort of dream thing. The atmosphere, as I say, was good all the way through, and the scare was the jump scares in it were decent. It was strange but interesting and quite a good film. Then we had a film called Spider, which was kind of arachnophobia based type thing. It's a little odd, interesting, odd but goodish. Um, After that was the Ferris Wheel, which was again another subtitled film. Again, it was a very strange film and a little confusing. I wasn't quite sure what this film was actually about, but it was interesting. The ideas in it were interesting. I wasn't totally sure what the concept of the entire film was. Then we had another one which was also very good called Ash Sunday. It was a comedy horror, very well made, really looked really good, odd but good, good effects, some interesting parts to it. I think it might have been a little bit long for me, but not in a bad way necessarily. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good film and it was quite funny. There was a little glitch towards the end of it as it was being shown, but that didn't detract from the film itself. Um, then the next film is Turno di Noche, The Wrong Place. Very interesting start with like a girl being hunted through woods. There are some great makeup and effects in this, and it ends up with this kind of um, one-on-one fight between two kind of slashers, if you like. It's very good. I could have done with some subtitles at the end because there was some talking at the end, and I had no idea what they were talking about. But other than that, I thought it was a really good film. One of my favorite ones, I think. Then there was a film called Accusation. It was the extended cut. It's done almost like a found footage type thing, and it's a very interesting idea. It's kind of like a comment on the film world and on the kind of on the effects of accusations against people within that. Little bit overlong, but I think it worked really well. And the interesting thing about it is the guy who made it, I've actually been more used to seeing him doing comedy horrors. So it was interesting to see him doing something different like that. So yes, the next lot of short films was started off with a film called Primacy. Great effects. It's kind of about the dangers of using AI for war. Excellent quality, well acted, well made, really good, but it wasn't horror, it was science fiction. But yeah, it was a good film. Then we had Selfie, which is a film about self-image and societal norms, bullying, the effects of all of those things on people. It's kind of like almost like a kind of techno Dorian Gray, but in reverse. Um, Using a phone. There's some really good effects, and it's really well made, and I thought it was a pretty good film. Then there was a film called Hallowed, which was, it was a film about a priest, lots of religious imagery and all that kind of thing, holy judgment and that kind of stuff. There's some good effects in it, but it didn't really do a lot for me. Then there was a film called Seed of Doubt, which was interesting because I was contacted by the director of this film um, before the film festival, and it was interesting to watch. It's actually a film done in Yiddish with subtitles, and it is, it's got religious kind of bits in it, and there's this kind of demon exorcism type thing in it. The cinematography was really good, really interesting effects, and I thought it was a really good film. It was well acted and well put together. Um, then we had something which was I thought was really quite funny and good. Uh, it's a thing called House Hunters. Very interesting, very well made, really good. A bit, I don't know, mad, funny, but really good at the end. I thought it was really good. Some very there's at least one actress in it that I've definitely seen on television before. And But it was well made and well, it was a good film. Then we have a film called Dagon. It's an animated film. It's a kind of odd film that's quite good, and it's a kind of Lovecraftian type story that works quite well. Then we have another one that I really liked called Stendhal. This was subtitled again. It's some very interesting camera working, this. And it kind of starts off about being like a robbery at an art in an art gallery, and it ends being a bit kind of slashery, serial killer. Some really good effects, and I thought it was a really good film. Then there was a film called The Non-Existence. Had a very odd start to it, but with some good effects. It kind of starts off, you think it's going to be a vampire film. It's got an interesting idea, but I'm not totally sure I understood it. I think it was about these things called the non-existence, which seemed to be the opposite of vampires, because you could see them in the mirror, but you couldn't see them in the real world. And a vampire bites one of them and then becomes one of them, stops being a vampire. And I honestly thought they're all dressed in black, and I thought, is this how goths are made? But I don't know. Uh, so two of them end up haunting this grieving woman, and then end up killing her. And it's an interesting film, as I say, and it's an interesting watch. But I'm not completely convinced I understood exactly what it was about. Um, so after that, I did try to watch a feature film called The Crucifix, Blood of the Exorcist, which I would say that the part I saw of it had good cinematography and it looked really good. But I had to leave early because I desperately needed a drink and I desperately needed to use the toilet. So by the time I'd done all that, I couldn't, there was no point in going back. Um, so then I watched some long short films. Um, the first one of those I absolutely loved, probably I think one of the best shorts I'd seen. It's called Have a Good Day. It's got quite a funny start to it. It's odd, but in an interesting way, and it's a funny story. It's a very clever idea, really well made and well acted. Great makeup effects and other effects, practical effects. It starts funny, then kind of gets serious. Um, and it has a good twist at the end of it, and I thought it was a really, really good film. Um, the next one is called Leatherback. It starts a bit like a police video, old looking VCR, sort of found footage, time travel thing. Acting is a bit wooden. It's a bit dull. It was more science fiction than it was horror, and it was just too long for me. I just lost interest in it, to be honest with you. The next film was called The Bomb. Um, I'm not sure I would class this as a horror film as such. It's subtitled. I'm not sure where it comes from originally. Uh, it's a very nasty film, in which some not very nice people um, basically just seem to take pleasure in destroying other people and other people's property, and in a quite a nasty way, like by setting fire to them and things like that. Very well made, but not very nice film, as in um, just yeah, it was a difficult watch. Then there was a film called Merkurio. This is black and white subtitled. It is a very odd and very strange film about a man who ends up being owned by a witch, and yeah, she keeps him in a cave, and yeah, I don't know. It was just bizarre. Uh, Not really my kind of thing at all. So that was day one. And all in all, it was a pretty good day, as was every day at the festival. Uh, and I will now go on to day two. So again, I'll start off with a longer list this time of films I didn't get to see. The first film I've got is All This Time, which was a new indie film. Then House, which is a Japanese classic film. Uh, Ivy Elve, which was an new indie short. Rodent, which was a new indie short. Reaching Out, which was an indie short. The Farm, another indie short. Angus Gets Ghosted, another indie short. Termination Clause, another indie short. Raw Chemistry, another indie short. Post, which was another indie short. And then The Cellar, which was a new independent film made by the same people who are making R.I.P. Man. The Evil Dead, which is a classic film, of course. Marrow, which is a new indie short. Wired, indie short. The Worms of Earth, a new indie short. Earthen, another indie short. Eximo, another indie short. Liver, which is an indie short. And then Final Exorcism, which was a new indie film. Then there was an educational session by Sylvia J. Schmidt about film law in one of the screens. Then there was a film called Interlopers, which was another new indie film, and Britain's Greatest Ghost Stories, which was a new indie film. Virus Detected, which was a new indie film. Then we had The Evil Dead 2, which is a classic film. Darklands Director's Cut, which is another classic film. Members Club, which was a new indie film. Uh, the world premiere of Shiver Me Timbers, which was a new indie film. Take From Me, a new indie film. Somnium, which was a new indie film. Night Whispers, which was another new indie film. The Neighborhood at the End of the World, a new indie short. Our Sins, uh, which was an indie short. The Joker, The Last Laugh, which is an indie short. Black Dog, another indie short. Backmask, which was another indie short. One Night Only, which was an indie short, and Another Alice, which was another indie short. There was also Video Shop Tales of Terror 2, Lust and Revenge, which I will come back to because I saw that later. And there was the Horror Roulette, which they did last year, in which people could just go in and basically you tell them a short film that you want them to show that's online somewhere, and they find it and show it. So there you go. That was that. So the films I did see, again, I started off with shorts, and I'd started with the super short films, which are, some of them are like only about a minute long, or whatever. The first one was called The Milk Situation. It's guy sort of starts off a bit like an exorcism. It gets a bit funny. There's a great good choreographed fighting scene in it, and there are werewolves. So, all in all, it's pretty good. Spots, which was no, it's not really great. It was kind of about a, a teen's angst about spreading acne, which ended up not being real. Um, then we had Hereafter, which was I wasn't sure about this. There was a girl in it who was dead, and did she come back from being dead, or was she just asleep and awake? I don't know, to be honest. Then we had VHX, which was an animated horror film about videos, and it recorded what happens when you record over them. It was very well done and very quite funny. I really quite liked that. Then we had Reflected Realities, which was it was about a guy who finds this phone that changes reality, and uh, it changes the way you perceive what's around you. Then after that was Housebreaker. It was a break-in. I didn't quite get it. There was a metronome in this house and kept stopping. And there was somebody else in the house, and it seemed like it was all in some kind of time loop. I'm not completely sure I got exactly what was going on, but it was okay. Then Safe, which there was a home invasion, a killer and somebody fighting back. But it turns out to be a couple just playing rough sex. And it was quite amusing. But, I don't know. Then there was a strange thing called Cakes. in which there were lots of singing cakes. It was a bit bizarre. Uh, it- yeah, there was a twist in it, but it was kind of good, but it was just so odd. Uh, then there was a thing called A Mother's Love, which was kind of child exploitation thing. It's sort of um, the mother of a girl sorts out a problem with her boyfriend in a very final way. Then there was a thing called Socio Zombies. It's an animated thing about a loud party next door, and the person they live next door to is a zombie. So yeah, it's quite interesting, I suppose. Then there was Matricide, which was another animated thing about dumped mattresses sort of chasing after this woman. Then there was a film called Runaway and Hide, which we had identical copies of people. There was a jump scare at the end, which was pretty good. Then there was Moving Parts, another animated one. This was a kind of verse or a song. It was a very odd song, and the art was even more odd. It was a kind of reminiscent of Nightmare Before Christmas, but I don't know. Then there was a film called To the Brink, another animated film, another song, kind of angel and devil basically just arguing and talking about the world going to shit. Um, there is then a film called Dead Tension, which was like a school overrun by zombies. Then we had The Beast, black and white. It's strange people in it appearing and disappearing, and consequently, I couldn't quite work out what it was about. Was it about man going mad? It just seemed very odd. Then there was a thing called sleep talking, which basically consisted of a woman sleep laughing, sleep crying, sleep talking, and then a sleep attack, and sounding like a demon. So there you go. Hmm. So then I watched my first feature film proper, which was a film I was asked to watch and did so quite happily. A feature film called Psychopomp. There's some interesting camera effects pre-credit, and when the man goes outside, it's obvious it was obviously inspired by the whole COVID lockdown thing. And it's difficult to tell whether the man in it who is on his own is going slowly mad, or if it is the effects of the illness. But it's shown very well. I had some time in hospital with COVID and had some very vivid and very um, upsetting dreams, and it worked really well, this film. It showed things that kind of, although they didn't trigger me necessarily, they reminded me of the type of dreams I had when I was in hospital with COVID. It's very well made, very well acted. It's slow paced, but it works really well. Um, is it horror? Is it sci-fi? I don't know about which of those, if either of them it was, but it was a really good film, and that's another one that I may well be able to interview the filmmaker about that at a later date. So then I watched the Short Sharp Shock films. Again, these are all short films that are have a interesting thing. First one was called Horror Hot Tub. Four friends go to a country getaway. It's a meteor, is it alien? I don't know. And they get taken over. And I was interested by the fact that the music was by a band called Toxic Melons, which was quite interesting. Then there was a very bizarre CGI animation film called Don't Fuck with Dolphins, episode one, I think. There's two guys fishing. They get attacked by dolphins and killed by them, and it's mildly funny, but I it was okay. Then we had Cut Open, a game of Torius a Torius a Libro, subtitled, although many of the subtitles weren't really needed. It's basically they're doing this seance style game, calling spirits. It's pretty good, nothing fantastic. Then we have Nervous Ellie. I thought this was an excellent film. It's a woman. She starts off by being very nervous on a date, and she starts off sweating and throwing up, and then gets nosebleeds, and then blood from many orifices, and then kind of explodes with butterflies. Very, very well done. Great effects. Really well made with film. Then there's a film called As Father's Debt. This could be. There was a trigger warning for sex scenes. It had a 1980s feel, and it kind of like was about suicide and revenge and rape and yeah, it was okay. I wouldn't really like to say more than that, really. Then there was Work Order. This was therapy situation, and it's the idea of killing the guy whose job is killing, but he actually wants to do it as an art form, and it's the whole kind of thing of the thing of doing art and still trying to make money at it. So, do you end up doing things that you wouldn't don't really want to do just because of the fact you're making money at it? It was good fun film, and I really liked that one. Then we had Killer in the House, which started off like an old slasher movie. It was quite funny and pretty good. And then Through the Throat, which I think was about loss and kind of vampires and priming and madness, I think. But it was difficult to tell, really. I kind of got lost, I think, in that film with it. Then there was a thing called The Noonday Demon. This was an animated film. It's about a therapist. Therapist who basically is given up and he goes back to his childhood home and that sort of thing, and meets up with somebody there that he had a thing with, and a demon child. It was very odd, and I couldn't work out whether the therapist was the demon or whether it was just in the minds of the people that he met. Right, so the next thing I did was some more short films. These were the cheap thrills, so these are on ones on a low budget. The first one was called Stuck. It's about a female artist, um, she's a um, grieving female artist who kind of like, and there's local murders, and she's involved, and the grieving mother gone mad, kind of. Then there's a film called Carnis, which was about a jogger and picking up a dead girl, um, which was quite interesting. Then there was Is Someone There, which it was a weird thing because for the first time in a horror film, there was a house with lots of lights on, which is kind of strange. There were clips from Night of the Living Dead and a couple of other films, that sort of thing. And there's some very weird phone calls on an old phone. It was good. It was good. It kind of worked well. Then Did You Get That? Which was kind of a documentary, or two people making a documentary about demon filming in the woods, kind of folk horror. Not bad, but not great. Then Skelf. This was a Christmas film, very odd. Weird presents get sort of dropped in the street, and the woman takes one of them in. Turns out to be like an elf on the shelf, a demon one. It's got quite a good ending to it, though. Uh, then next one was Five Turns. This is a very odd film. Somebody gets given an odd gift, a box with a dial on the front. I think it was something to do with a demon, but I really have no idea. It just kind of, again, it was another one that I guess kind of lost me. Then there was a film called Bad Dog, which is about a dog sitter with a very strange dog owner. It was a very strange film, to be honest. Then Dead to Me, which is what I thought was a pretty good film. It's a haunting by an ex-girlfriend who committed suicide. Well, may probably, but didn't actually commit suicide. The boyfriend actually murdered her. It was good as I expected it to be because it was made by people we know and who I may well to be talking to about the making of the film. Then there was a film called Ingest. Uh, it's kind of guy finds an unmarked VHS tape, and it turns out to be it's really weird. He puts the tape on and he's watching himself on the VHS, and the video image ends up grabbing him through the TV. Okay, there was supposed to be a film on after that called The Spirit of Rybin, but what was actually shown was a repeat of The Spirits of Penge. So I don't know what happened there or what was that was all about. Very strange. Right, to end the to day two, there was some late night shorts, and the very first one was called The Night Before Christmas, but wasn't actually shown because the film didn't arrive with the festival. So no idea what happened there. The second film was a film from Belgium called L'Enfant, or The Child. I thought this was really good. It was a really good atmosphere from the start. It's a pregnant woman walking barefoot through the streets. It was subtitled, obviously, but yes, but it was good. It was good effects, and it was a kind of she ends up giving birth. She's pregnant. She ends up giving birth to this kind of you think is it a demon? What is it? But the end of it kind of makes it obvious to me, anyway, that it had a kind of Lovecraftian sort of feel because the baby has got these tentacles and things that were there. But it's a really well made film with really good atmosphere, really good actors, some great camera work, and really worth a watch. Then there was a film called Louise. It starts with a sex scene and it's being taped. It's in French, but with no, it was in French, but with no subtitles. Um, I had no idea what was going on. I think, right, okay. Um, there's a guy who is having sex with this girl, and a roommate or somebody, a friend of his, filming it through a window. Um, and she finds out, but doesn't seem to care. The guy who is having sex with her seems to treat the guy who's doing the filming a bit kind of like, like he's rubbish. And then in the end, for no adequately explained reason, the guy who is doing the film commits suicide. So I have no idea. I certainly wouldn't have said it was horror, but I have no idea, to be honest, what exactly the story was supposed to be. So that was day two over and done with. So there you go. On to day three, and again, the films I didn't get to see. The first was A Cat in the Brain, which is a classic film. Cat People, another classic film. The Tenant, a classic film. The Busby and Me, a new independent documentary. Wild Palms, which is a classic TV series. Zombie Flesh Eaters, a classic film. Repeat of Sweeney Todd the Demon Barber of Fleet Street, a classic film. Repeat of All This Time, which is a new indie. Repeat of Threads, the classic TV film. First Bite is the Deepest, which was a new indie film. And then they repeated the short film showcase from day one, which was the one I'd seen. They also had The House by the Cemetery, which is a classic film. Invasion of the Body Snatchers, again a classic film. Man Bites Dog, another classic film. Razorblade Smile, classic film. Don't Don't Torture a Duckling, which is a classic film. Halloween Tales, which is a new indie film. And repeat of Metropolis, which is a classic film. Torture Day, which is a new indie film. The Reign of Queen Gennara, which was a world premiere of a new indie film. Angst, which is a classic film. Welcome to Kitty Town, which was a new indie film. And Simon Says, which was a new indie film. So the films I did see, again, I started with shorts and I watched Inferis, which is a thing about a night watchman. It was a short film. It looked good, but it didn't really do much for me. Then there was a film called Polymorphia, uh, which had some very interesting camera effects. It's like a therapy doctor, the man in bandages. The doctor doesn't seem to under care. It had a very odd ending. It's kind of was about self-image, and it was really good because it was a really different sort of film. I really liked that. Then Insomnium, some friends hiking in bad weather. There's some good camera work, some good look. There's a strange object in the woods, like a sort of totem thing. The guy starts having visions. It's a bit long, but it's not a bad film. Then Maureen, which was a self-tape monologue, basically about a gay guy and his relationship. It didn't really do anything for me, I say. Then there was Skulk. The people alone, somebody alone in the house. There's some strange noises, and then they see someone outside watching them, and there's voices. And so it's a good film. It worked quite well. Then Finger Food. Um, this was odd. It starts off with photos of a cupboard with blood running down it. It's a house share, and there's a strange guy, and one of the guys sharing the house sees a finger in the fridge. Some of this is black and white, and they sit down for this meal. These two guys who are sharing the house sit down for this meal, and I couldn't work out if the meat the guy was eating was supposed to be human or not. It was pretty good. It was not great, but pretty good. Then there was Trapped. This was a film about lockdown and about abuse during lockdown. It's about dad and a daughter, and I couldn't work out whether she was remembering abuse that he'd done before, or if the abuse was taking place there and then. It is a slightly disturbing watch and a slightly hard film to watch if you've ever suffered anything like that. But it was very good. Then there's Breakfast, which is another one that I think I've seen before. It's about a guy's morning routine and about he seems to be being haunted or possessed at different times. It's well acted. It's quite amusing in some places. It works really well. Okay. The next film was a feature film. It was The Wrath of Thorn. Begins with black and white, very gothic, satanic ritual, a good thing. This is about this is a film about a character that has been in a few other films, like slasher house films, which was There was one in last year's thing. It's well made, well acted. There's some good action scenes, good story. It's a little bit slow in places, but all in all, it's a pretty good film. I enjoyed it. I thought it was quite a good, decent new um, indie film that was kind of works well. The next film is was an anthology film called Horoscopes, Volume 3, Dark Zodiac. So we went started off with Aries, it's a thing about vaccination, vaccines, self-tape. It's quite funny, quite good. Then Taurus, which was about remembered child abuse, a stressed out mum that kills the baby. Uh, then Gemini, which was about boyfriend and girlfriend who were joggers. Um, uh, jealous girlfriend, not really into his family, who kind of seems to be abusing him, which is quite interesting. Then there was Cancer, which was it's about a woman in an apartment. There's a beetle that she tries to get rid of, and every time she attacks the beetle, she hurts herself. And there's Leo, is a woman. Yeah, it starts off with a woman on an urn scattering ashes. Uh, then there's a lawyer with a will, and she ends up. This woman ends up trapping the lawyer in a web and feeds off him and gets younger. And there was Virgo, which is an ancient talisman. A woman gets kind of zapped by it. Um, and then, uh, yeah, there's the man in a photo studio. There's a female who is she comes out of the talisman. She's like a siren. It's a bit odd, but it's interesting. Then there's Libra, which is there's a woman, a couple who try to watch TV, and there's loud music next door from a band. They do a kind of ritual, satanic almost ritual to get success, which ends up causing an outbreak of cannibalism. Um, then there's Scorpio, which is it's about drugs and uh, abusing women, and the sound on that was a bit low, but it was okay. Sagittarius, which was about I don't really know what it's about. People seem to be driving through small towns on holiday. They went to Niagara Falls, and I have no idea really, other than that. Capricorn was about a hiker in Ireland who finds out about this ancient Irish goddess who's calling to the hiker, and the hiker seems a bit mad. Aquarius, this is the one I thought this was really good. There's a woman running from something, hiding shadows. She's hearing strange voices, and there's a strange creature, and it's like a demon, and a man finds her, but then the demon attacks him through her, which was quite well done. And then Pisces, which is a young woman trying to phone somebody, uh, phones another friend about tarot cards that get sent to her, and she does the cards, sees odd visions and hears voices, and then she gets taken over and ends up sending the cards on to another friend, which is okay. So on the whole, that whole anthology film was pretty good. I then took a bit of a break from reviewing things, and I went to see The Shuttered Room, which was is a classic film, and um, it is well worth watching if you've never seen it. It's uh, it's got Gig Young and Oliver Reed in it, and it's based on a story by August Derleth and H.P. Lovecraft. And it's it's just a very interesting and very well made film. I really like it. I've always liked that film. So I saw it years and years ago, and it was just nice to sit and watch that, something different. Then I watched some more late night shorts, and I started off with The Domestication of Vampires in Essex. Now, this starts off in what looks like it could be a nail bar or some kind of sex club, strip club. And you get some very Essex girls get out of a cab, and it's actually one of their houses, and they find this goth girl sitting outside. And they take her into the house, and she turns out to be a vampire. It's a good, fun film, and it works really well. It's really quite funny. Then the next film was called The Dead of Winter. Um, this guy goes into an alleyway and sees somebody laying in the alley. Um, the guy asks for help, and this guy ignores him and goes home. So he sees himself, or he sees the alleyway on the TV, and he's haunted by the man from the alley. And then he goes outside because he thinks he sees him out there, and ends up dying outside in the garden. Quite good. Then there was a film called Cul-de-sac. People moving into a new house, and it's a very strange, weird neighbours. The neighbours are giving them these weird brownies that give them super energy. And the neighbours are really odd, and the brownies are made from something that you really have to see the film. That when it was made from, I was really not expecting, but it works well. It's quite funny. Um, the next one was called One Cut of the Living Dead. And it starts with a sex scene, and the guy sees zombies. Then they disappear, and he had more sex, and then you see zombies again, and that happens two or three times. And then the zombie joins in having sex with them, and then for some bizarre reason, this old witch turns up watching them, and they're all doing it together. And it is just a very, very strange Japanese short film. Well, that was the end of day three. So, Day four. Again, the films I didn't see. Cheap Thrills were repeated from day two. I didn't see Scopophobia, which was a new indie film. A Game in the Woods, which was another new indie film. Halloween Tales, a new indie film. The repeat of Wild Palms, the classic TV series. Pigman, which was a new indie film. The Protoss Experiment, a new indie film. Repeat of Stephen Berkoff's Telltale Heart, which is a new indie film. The Survivors, which is the classic TV series. Never Have I Ever, which is a new indie film. Iconic, which was a new indie film. Interlopers, which is a new indie film. Repeat of the Reign of Queen Gennara, which is a new indie film. Transmission, another new indie film. Everyone is Going to Die, another new indie film. Cannibal Holocaust, which is a classic film. The Baby in the Basket, which is a new indie film. The Painter, which was a short indie film. Find You Here, another short indie film. All About Stevie, another short indie film. The Men from Damnation Control, a short indie film. The Fireplace, a short indie film. The Biodiversity, another indie short film. Um, Body Worn Video, a new indie short film. Surprise, which was another indie short film. Do Not Open, an indie short. Progeny, indie short, and Virus Detected, which was a new indie feature film. So this was the last day of the festival, and I started off again watching short films. I started off with one called Winter Song. This was subtitled. There's a woman in a bath. There's a voiceover. You see a man sleeping rough. Um, then there's a woman playing the cello and a baby crying. Some odd visions. I think it was about nuclear winter, but I'm not completely convinced. I'm sure about that. Then there was the procedure. There's a woman, an older woman, home having a shower and getting dressed up to go out. Um, she's cleaning the house. She seems like quite a religious woman. Uh, I she goes away. She has a party, a going away party, and in actual fact, it's all about voluntary euthanasia. Um, and there's a bit in it where she does, where she kills all the doctors, but that's kind of in her head. There you go. That was quite good. Then there was the Red Diamond Cut. There was an animated start to this, and it's set in Christmas in 1999. It's female gangsters. It's a bit slow, slightly gory in places and okay, but I didn't rate it that much. I don't know why. Yeah, I'm not sure. Then there was a thing called the Red Hourglass. This is split into chapters. So chapter one, which is about uh, it's about an odd dream of spider. It was just a bit strange. And this woman becomes pregnant, and I think it's about, was it about, I'm not sure, was it about immaculate conception? Then some more visions, and then two was the baby. Um, and I don't know. Again, more odd sounds, more dreams, and a giant spider, and the baby part of the spider. More stuff I didn't quite understand. And then the third part, she goes to these strange people, and it has a very odd ending. I'm not absolutely sure I understood it, and I wasn't really that bothered. Then there's a film called Passion. There's two people in a car having sex, being watched by somebody. She goes off to go to the toilet, and when she comes back, um, he's dead, and then she gets killed. And then you see somebody else, a woman who's decorating, gets killed, and it turns out all three of them are in a photo with the guy who's killed them. It's okay. My Great Face, which was a strange film. It starts with a strange sort of ice swirling thing and a knocking. It's some very odd editing and very odd visuals. I think it was all about dementia, but there was nothing that absolutely said that. Then there's a film called Grandma May I, in which there was a child arguing with a parent. The child walks out. The father's died, and the boy goes out and meets this strange girl, puts on an odd mask, and meets the girl's grandma. who he wishes for his dad back. The dad comes back and tells the mum that they'd be better off if the boy was killed. So he puts the mask on again and then decides to go to live with this strange grandma that he sees in the visions. So then the next thing was some short films. The first one was called Unraveling. It's about they're kind of in a forest, and the grandma and granddaughter sorting out things. The grandma seems to have a plants growing out of her back, and the granddaughter goes into the forest, and she seems to have the same sort of plants growing out of her arm. I think maybe it's a film about old age, but I'm not absolutely sure or certain of that. But yeah, there you go. The next one is called Aetherium. Aetherium. I think that's how you pronounce it. Uh, somebody, a photographer developing pictures in a dark room. The pictures of in a wood, the things start blurring. There's a notebook. I can't work out if they were seeing visions of each other. It was the man who was a writer and the woman who's a photographer. And I can't work out if they're having visions of each other or if they were having visions, both having visions of something else that turned out to be like a spirit of the wood. The next one was called One for the Road. A car going through the countryside at night, and these men pick up a woman. Um, they find a man and pick him up. Um, and it's kind of about vampires and things. It was okay, but not great. Um, but it was something a bit different, but it wasn't fantastic. Then Midnight Frights. This was a French film with subtitles. People watching a late night horror film. I know it's a kind of a late night horror film TV program about a rock band. A girl in the audience is hypnotized. She goes backstage and kills the singer. It's not bad. It's comedy, but it's difficult. Some parts of it are funny, some parts aren't. Next is the Once Trust. It's a 1998 VHS recruitment for time travelers. And then it jumps to 2005, where there are two agents to this old woman. They're talking about necrophagia, um, people eating dead people. It's a bit confusing, and I'm really not sure I have any idea what it was about, to be honest. And I don't think it was horror. Then I think it's pronounced Giallo, which is the Italian horror things. Uh, there's a woman in the city. There's traffic and things around it. Subtitled. She goes into a record shop. Her friend works there, and then she goes off to a meeting with somebody. There's some strangely lit places with strange, almost like a dance scene at a party. She's walking at night, and it couldn't work out where some parts of it were just in her head. It was all a bit weird and not explained, and I really have no idea quite what it was about. Then there was Curiosity, which is a young man. He's watching TikTok videos and things, and he's one of them says about how to get onto the dark web. So he goes on, and he starts watching videos on there, but he doesn't like what he's seeing, so he tries to stop them and ends up being taken and put into one of the video type of videos that he's been watching. Then there was Aurora. The woman in London, she sees a woman sitting on the ground and stops to help her. It's subtitled and it's odd. This woman starts biting herself and then she starts biting others and then she's sick and she turns into something, I think. But I got bored, to be honest, watching it. I don't know why. Then there was Video Shop Tales of Terror 2, Lust and Revenge. Uh, there's some great kind of mock horror film trailers. There's some good comedy stuff, some not so good comedy stuff. There was a brilliant animated piece called the Portrait of Professor Slocum. Um, it was okay, and it was good for me to watch because of the fact that I am in it for all of about a second. Um, but I have to say, I don't having seen Video Shop Tales of Terror, which I thought was quite good. I don't think this was as good. Um, and I think part of it is the fact that for me, the comedy was a bit kind of like, I don't know if I'm just getting old, but it was a bit kind of like it would have been really funny if I was 12. And I'm not. But yeah, hey, as I say with all these things, these people go out there and make these films and put them out there. And I am in awe of the fact that they do it because I would love to be able to do that and I can't. So they do, and I applaud them for it. And the thing about comedy is so subjective. So just because I didn't find it funny doesn't mean it wasn't funny. And I'm not saying I didn't like the film. I'm just saying there wasn't stuff in it. There was a lot of stuff in it I didn't find funny. And if it's supposed to be a comedy film, then there needs to be more of that. So I got I think I've got all of these right. I may have missed a couple of the awards. These are the awards. The best anthology film went to Video Shop Tales of Terror 2. The worst death went to Shiver Me Timbers for the tent scene. Best animation was VHX. Best cinematography was Seed of Doubt. Best director for a short film was Hallowed, which was okay. Best editing was Selfie. Best actress was Emily Rose Holt for All This Time. Best cheap thrill was Ingest. Best short film under 5 minutes was The Milk Situation. Best feature film was All This Time. Best special effects was Lorraine Orin Minara. Best ensemble cast was Members Club. Funniest moment was from Video Shop Tales of Terror 2. Best foreign language film was The Beast. Best low budget short was Night Whispers. Best local film was Surprise. Best score was Eximo. Best low budget feature film was The Interlopers. Best short film was House Hunters. The jury prize went to Halloween Tales. Best actor was from Take From Me. Best feature film was Welcome to Kitty Town. Best director was Justin Best. There were also two prizes, or no, four prizes given out, which were prizes that were awarded by the actual people at the festival. But at the moment, I don't know what those who won what for those. So I will find out and I will put them on here eventually. All in all, it wasn't a bad festival. I would say, given the fact that they had problems with the cinema and that they therefore had problems getting out, I think they did incredibly well. On a personal note, this is the first year that there hasn't been one film that has really grabbed me and I've thought, wow, that is such a brilliant film. But that's just my personal thing. There were lots of good films. There were lots of really nice people. I had a really good time there. I would love to thank Spencer for allowing me to be able to go there to do this review and report back. He also he also had the pass there for Scott, who was unfortunately unable to go due to illness. But I am looking forward to going back next year and doing it all over again. Have a good time there. I have met some nice people there, and as I say, we will hopefully be doing some interviews with some of the filmmakers and check out as many of the films as you can. I will put up as many links as I can find for these films, and also check out the Romford Horror Film Festival website and look out for the main film festival, the main Romford Film Festival, which will be coming up a bit later in the year. Until then, that's me. That's my report back done, and there you go. I will see you next time when Scott should be rejoining me, and we will be doing a review of some science fiction films. Thank you very much. Bye. The Sciforror Film Podcast.